we're very peaceful. We don't have anything. We are just posting pictures, and you can see they're throwing tear gases, and we're holding nothing. So that just shows you how crazy they are.
A youth-led uprising that shook the nation. What's changed?
We are not scared of you.
The 77% dives in.
Hello and welcome to the 77% with me, Liz Show. This week, we'll do things a bit differently. All our stories and reports will focus on one country only, Kenya. Coming up on the show, we explore how Kenya's Gen Z protests have changed youth activism in the nation and across Africa. Then, in this week's street debate, we meet with young people in Nairobi to discuss their concerns and potential solutions. We close things off with Nairobi car vibes, where beats and voices collide with C and Ceci the Goat. On June 25th, 2025, Kenya marked 1 year since thousands of young people took to the streets to protest a controversial finance bill. On that day, 12 months ago, the bill passed. Protesters stormed Parliament and police opened fire. Today, over 60 deaths related to police violence are being investigated. Just recently, the death of a young man in police custody sparked fresh protests coinciding with the anniversary. Our team in Nairobi spoke to the parents of one young man killed last year.
Young Kenyans are protesting on the streets again, and once more, they're angry at the death of one of their own. They say at the hands of the authorities. This time, it's Albert Ojwang's name they're calling. He was a teacher and blogger who was arrested for publishing supposedly false claims about the deputy police chief and found dead in his police cell. Watching Ojwang's father on TV is a horror for Jillian Munyao and Crispin Odawa. Their son Rex was shot and killed at a protest a year ago.
Sometimes I watch whatever is happening on TV there. My tears always comes.
It's so painful that we are trying to heal, then come another bombshell of Ojwang.
Rex Masai Kanyike was the first person to die during last year's so-called Gen Z protests against the controversial finance bill. Local news outlets showed CCTV footage of a crowd running from the police and a man thought to be a plainclothes officer shooting a handgun. Rex's parents show us where he died.
You could trace the blood from where he was.
From where he was shot.
There, to this place. Then some, when they were crossing the road.
Boniface Mwangi, a prominent activist, arrived at the clinic that evening and found Rex's family and friends standing over his body.
It unlocked emotions that I've never had before. And then we had to be there for the family. We organized a fundraiser for the family. And we thought Rex was the first and the last person to be shot. And then a couple of days later, on June 25th, the government killed more people.
Rex's death became integrated into the protests. They grew, and eventually people stormed the Parliament building. That's when security forces fired on them. Kenya's police watchdog IPOA is investigating 60 deaths and 233 injuries connected to police conduct during the 2024 protests. Criticized for being ineffective and intransparent, IPOA says the police often do not cooperate.
For example, an incident may happen near a police station, or there's a demonstration in a county or somewhere else, and somebody is killed. Who was issued which gun? Those are very basic information that you require before you even start investigations. But the law says the officer of the police station needs to cooperate.
There are some signs of consequences. 6 men, including 3 police officers, are now facing murder charges in connection with Albert Ojwang's death, and Kenya's deputy police chief has stepped aside while an investigation is underway. But the violence is not stopping. During protests against Ojwang's death, DW cameras caught the shooting of a young vendor in the head on video. 2 police officers were arrested as a result.
The police officer who did that particular shooting was masking his face. That's even illegal. So a lot of illegality. So as a protester, you have to know that when you go to the streets, you're going to deal with goons, militia, and police officers disguised in goons' clothes or civilian clothes.
The National Police Service denies working with such groups. Rex's case is one of only 2 of the 60 deaths from last year to make it to an official inquest in court. Rex's parents and other families had hoped for police support to commemorate the anniversary of last year's deaths.
We want to plant flowers for our fallen heroes. We want to have prayers for our kids to mark that 1 year down the line. Are we supposed to keep quiet?
Rex's mother says she's not going to keep quiet and has vowed to march for justice for him and the others.
Throughout this show, we'll be hearing from Kenyans who have chosen to stay defiant, even though they are very much aware of how relentless authorities may react to protests. We now want to take a step back and look at how the protests started in the first place and how they spread from the capital to different corners of the country. It's also important to point out that before the Gen Z protests hit the headlines, young people in other African countries had also marched and faced brutal crackdown.
Youth-led protests have erupted across Africa from Egypt to Sudan and Kenya, and have often been met with violence as governments attempt to silence dissent. A common demand among these youth protests is for good governance. However, democracy on the continent often exists more in appearance than in practice. According to Afrobarometer surveys, about 60% of young Africans express dissatisfaction with their democracies. Despite this discontent, young people are typically less likely than older generations to engage in activities that promote change, such as voting or activism. But this trend is changing. In Nigeria, for instance, young people mobilized during the 2020 #EndSARS protest against police harassment. What began as a peaceful protest escalated into violence after the military was deployed, resulting in the tragic Lekki massacre. While several commissions were established to investigate the incident, it remains unclear whether any of the security personnel involved faced consequences for their actions. A similar situation is evident in Kenya, where protests erupted in June 2024 against a new tax bill. During these demonstrations, about 60 people lost their lives, and many were arbitrarily detained. A year later, no state security agents have been convicted, although some are currently on trial. Nonetheless, the so-called Gen Z protest movement has significantly changed youth activism across Kenya. In places like Nyeri, Nakuru, Kisumu, Mombasa and Eldoret, young people who had previously felt politically sidelined have become active participants in national discourse. The protests redefine what it means to be politically active in Kenya, no longer tied to party loyalty or tribalism.
It's clear that those nationwide protests definitely changed Kenya, but how do young Kenyans today feel about what happened a year ago? Was the risk worth it? Did the protests bring about the change they were demanding? To find out, my colleague Edith Kimani talked to Kenyans who view the protests from different angles. Here's our latest episode of the 77% Street Debate. And mind you, after this year's crackdown, which we will get to later, sentiments may have changed further.
Hello and welcome back to the 77% Street Debate. This week we are back in my hometown, Kenya's capital, Nairobi. And these streets were shaken on the 25th of June 2024 when young people angered by a controversial finance bill breached the gates of Parliament. And a year later we are here to ask if their demands were met, if they were indeed worth it. Well, who better to answer those questions for me than some fellow Kenyans? So let's start with you, Hanifa, because you've sort of become post the protest, one of the faces of this movement. But before we continue, just give us a quick look at why the protests happened in the first place.
I think the finance bill was a catalyst. It was anger, bitterness, simmered for years and years, inequality, corruption. It was just everything combined that blew up.
Yeah.
Finance bill was a catalyst, and I would like to term it as a youth quake.
A youthquake. So Hanifa describing it here as sort of the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. But Wanjera, I know you've been an activist for many years, and the issues that Hanifa is mentioning, they didn't start last year. So what is it that broke that camel's back?
Young people of this country were rising up against bad leadership, corruption, the economic situation, the high cost of living at the face of opulence, at the political class, at the face of we don't care, we're just going to do whatever we want. And the young people are saying, no, our future is on the line, our present is on the line. So we have to come and say we are not going to watch as you do whatever you want. Well, our future deteriorates, well, our present is unbearable.
Nathaniel, how would you rate the performance of the government between the time of the protests and now? Has much changed?
I am not the person who is capacitated to rate government performance. Only the young people and the citizens can tell us how we are performing. And we will be able to know whether we are performing well or not in the next election and in the continuous process of engagement through the governance processes.
Okay, so let me ask the people, do you think much has improved since 2024 in June? You know, the things that you were agitating for. Has the economy improved by a show of hands? Yes? Has the state of politics improved? Let's see. Joshua, you're a lawyer currently studying, but you underwent something very critical after the protests when you were mysteriously abducted. Please tell us how that happened.
Yeah, a day after the 25th of June, where we breached Parliament, I received calls from unknown people, and the language was that you are seen somewhere and these guys are coming for you, so wherever you are, leave. So I don't know why I was supposed to leave, but when I left, immediately I was captured, and I stayed in their hands for 2 days. But of course, during which time they could come for me in a room where they had thrown me into, beating me and asking me why I was involved in the protest and why I was mobilizing young people to go to the streets. But ultimately, they threw me into some river, about 100 kilometers from the Nairobi where they picked me up. So that was it for me, and I think when I speak about this, it gets very personal for me. And that's why, as Hanifa said, it has changed me completely.
Coming from the Kenya Human Rights Commission, what does the data show about the number of people who were abducted and the number of people who were killed during that time?
Huge numbers. The Missing Voices report that was released a few months ago indicate that that grew by about 145% from 2019 when that documentation started. That is a worrying trend, and particularly the 2024 finance bill protests really resulted in the killings and also enforced disappearances of these people. And as we speak about this, I think one of the things that we all need to note is that the Gen Z protests really led to the rising of youth activism, and that is what we are seeing right now.
All right, let me invite Kelvin. Please join me at the front here. He's wearing the Kenyan flag and a very democratic or patriotic message on his T-shirt. And I'm very surprised because your brother was killed by people who are wearing the same flag. Tell us a little bit about Brian, your late brother, and what happened to him.
Oh, Brian was a very hardworking person, hardworking boy. He was my young brother. So Brian went to the street to demonstrate. He went to the street at around 4:30. 30 minutes after, he was shot dead.
Yeah. Now, when we spoke on the phone as we were preparing for this street debate, I asked you if the police have been in touch, and you told me that the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, has been in touch with you. Did you know that they've listed your brother's name as one of the cases that's already been investigated?
I received a phone call from my aunt that IPOA wants the number of the witness. So the witness has refused to come out to witness, fearing of his life and danger. But also he was offered a job. So you see, the government, it knows what it's doing, because he's a witness, then he's given a job so that he can do what, he can be silent.
Okay. Yeah. I'd just like to let our audience know that we did invite the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, but unfortunately they weren't able to make it. But we did speak to them later, and this is what they had to say.
This particular question about Gen Z, we have 60 cases of death reported. Some of the killings were people who were running away and they were shot in the back, some of the victims. You will see some protests where people are shot in the head. And so we feel that there must be a much more better management of the public order and protests by the police.
Kelvin, by the way, thank you so much for sharing your story. But Wanjira, long before the protests, you've heard about police brutality and incidences working with people on the ground, and evidently nothing's changed or nothing seems to have.
I think it's a very sad reality that the Finance Bill 2024 actually brought out to the fore for all Kenyans to see that extrajudicial killings have been a reality, especially in the informal settlements of this country that have been ongoing on for years. That every other regime that has come, it's been extrajudicial killings. And 2024 made it a national discussion. Why is it that our police kill the young people of this country? We have documented so many cases with the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. We have gone to court. Not a single case has gotten justice.
So Hanifa, I have to ask, because Nathaniel earlier said that they are willing to listen as the governing party and they're willing to listen as the government. Do you think young people are willing to listen to government, or have you gotten to a place where it's too antagonistic?
I have been to mortuaries, to funerals. I have seen each and every family mourning and crying out for their child. And there's no justice at all. That bothers me a lot. It is so personal to me. Okay. So when they talk about amending things or doing whatever, if they wanted to, they would have done it.
So when you hear about this, Nathaniel, obviously you're not police, you're not government, you can't answer for justice. But on a personal level, you must surely know that there's a disconnect, there's a gap between justice and accountability.
Edith, it breaks my heart to hear and even saw what the young people who were killed in the protest because of a finance bill. Government has appropriated enough resources to the security sector. So it is the duty of every citizen, especially we the young people, to be able to ask the police the hard questions. What happened to accounting for each and every case that were killed in the finance bill, either by the police or by other criminal elements or any other. Right. And the beauty is that we have a robust judiciary. There are no cases that have evidence that can be able to evade the judiciary of Kenya.
I think Kelvin might have a different opinion there, given that his witness is being intimidated, surely. So I'd like to wrap this conversation up with Hanifa, because I did start with you asking the question of, was it worth it?
There is absolutely nothing the government hasn't done to silence dissent. Nothing. You killed us. You're abducting us. You're taking us to courts. None of it has been able to silence us. So that is the power we got from last year. I'm not the same person I was last year and the person before the protest. It was worth it, and we do it over and over again for a reimagined Kenya.
Okay, so, oh wow.
Viva, comrades, viva! Viva! Down with abduction, down! Down with corruption, down! Down with the killings, down!
Normally, I have something clever to say at the end of these debates, but I think the young people here have made their voices heard pretty clearly. The struggle still continues. People died, people were abducted, but I think the voice here is very loud and clear.
Thank you, Edith, for that powerful street debate and for always being our eyes and ears in Kenya, even when it's risky. As always, you can find the full street debate on YouTube. If you're following what's currently happening in Kenya, you may be asking yourself whether we're seeing history repeat itself. 1 year after the so-called Gen Z protests, the country is witnessing a fresh wave of demonstrations. Live radio and TV broadcasts were banned on the anniversary, and this time around, things once again turned violent.
On June 25th, 2025, Kenya remembered a moment that changed its democracy. 1 year ago, the youth of the country, the so-called Generation Z, rose up against high taxes, against corruption, against a system they said no longer spoke to them. That fight cost some 60 youth their lives last year. 1 year on, Kenya's security agencies again employed force to quell the commemoration event.
The situation has taken a dramatic turn. What was until moments ago a peaceful celebration, a memorial of those who lost their lives last year, has turned violent after police lobbed tear gas, which is actually still very much in the air. The protesters were pushed back a few moments ago, but being resilient and defiant, they are coming back singing the same song that they sang last year, "We are peaceful." The police, however, do not seem to understand this, and they keep pushing them back.
It burns.
Meanwhile, young people also seem divided on the impact of these protests.
The impact it's had on my daily life is mostly disruption of activities. Like I usually go for this ex-candidates program at church. I won't be able to go because of safety issues. People are concerned that they won't be able to travel from town.
The protests are pretty okay, especially because we are driving towards something that we all believe in, a better country, a better tomorrow for us and the coming generation.
For many of Kenya's youngsters, the commemoration of June 25 is a reminder of the price that some of their peers had to pay to protect the country's democracy.
Within the first couple of days, at least 16 people have lost their lives. Our eyes stay on Kenya following events as they unfold. But for now, it's time for us to shift gears, literally. We have a brand new segment called Car Vibes. So get ready for a ride like no other as C meets Ceci the Goat, rapper, singer, artist, and host on the streets of Nairobi. In our very first episode, they dive deep into the pressing issues of leadership and the ongoing protests shaking their hometown. No script, no holding back, just real talk and great music in the car.
Hi guys, I'm C and I'm with my brother. I'm Louis Aflan. And today we are on a mission to bring joy to our fellow citizens of Nairobi, okay?
Nairobians?
Yes. Yes, with our cup sing along. So we're just going to pick our guest right about the corner.
She's called Cece.
Called Cece.
Cece the Goat. Hey
Flani.
Cece.
Hey Mlia Flani.
How are you, man?
I'm great.
How's
How are
Nairobi
you?
doing you?
Nairobi is so cold today.
Okay, which song are you gonna play us? What is the name?
It's my song. It's called Niwewe. I'll be releasing it soon. So it goes 1, 2, 3.
Even though I know you'll be high risk, I don't mind it. Just give me all your love.
Hey.
So easy to see that you like it, play that you're smiling like we're falling in love. But tell me why you do me like you do, yeah. Keeping on the well, na 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 na. Love that we kiss to us, do yeah. For your love, baby. Okay. Tell me where you want, baby. Tell me where you did, my way. I wanna make you mine, there ain't nobody else, there ain't nobody else. Before you get me right, to the jammy, wanna make you mine.
As a youth today, where do you feel our country is headed to?
Oh my God.
Politically, economically.
It's crazy because you see, even before you guys picked me up, just now,
yes,
there was like some demonstration. It wasn't like a big demonstration, but there was like a small riot.
Yes, I noticed some.
Did you notice?
Yes,
Some police cars.
Yes.
I feel like we're in a very weird state right now in our country. There's so much oppression, first of all, and suppression, and so many people are dying just for speaking.
But have you guys first, before we even finish, there's a guy who died in police custody.
Yes. Recently. The young guy, yes, who recently died in police custody.
For a tweet, guys. He literally tweeted something and was arrested, and then he was found dead under police custody. It's just insane. You don't even know if you can express yourself anymore, or I just feel like we're in a very suppressive regime. But I feel like the youth are the future. So, would you guys ever consider leadership?
I was born one.
Oh.
Who's I?
So Amuna, you would consider it leadership?
No. Yes, leadership is different from politics.
Yes. So not politics, yeah?
Not politics, but leadership. I'm always on the go to lead, to like whenever there's an opportunity to lead others. What we confuse here in Kenya is leaders think there is ruling and there's leading. So they want to rule.
That was our very first episode of Nairobi Car Vibes. Stay tuned for more episodes coming soon on YouTube. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe. And thank you, Cece, for creating beautiful music with a strong message. Now I can already hear some of you say, I want to hear more from her. We got you. Here's the one and only Cece the Goat with a remix of Rema's song, Baby, Is It a Crime?
You don't want me to. Yeah. Is it a crime that I wanna see you every night? Puff, puff, passion, you got me feeling high. know I'm a G. You know I'm gonna keep it real.
Never do my darling, never do my whining. I see the beat, I dey shy the enter, make him no go call me.
Oh yeah, baby, no.
Love is in the air, let me breathe. Hold the river, hold the river, hey, hold the river, hey, hold the river, hey. Give him a run, give him a run, hey.